Good afternoon. The Committee on Water and Land is in check on its hearing notice of Monday, February 8th at 1 p.m. in room 229. Welcome, everyone, and it's Aloha Monday for all of us here. Just some housekeeping announcements. I'd like to say that this meeting, including the audio and the video of remote participants, you're being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links to viewing options for all of our Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to major technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, February 10th, in this room 229 and on Zoom. The public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. And for those participating remotely via Zoom, the testifier audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. We will have a time limit per testifier at 2 minutes. Before we proceed, just for the committee members, we are going to be deferring SB 1000 and SB 1167, and this will be at the end of the agenda, just to let you know. Thank you. We will proceed then. The Committee on Waterland on its first item on the notice of hearing, SB 567, and this is relating to county ordinances, and this prohibits the counties from requiring, as part of a county zoning ordinance or county rule, a developer with more than one residential unit obtain the approval of any state agency unless that approval is expressly required by law. And the chair would also recognize that here in person is myself as well. We do have Senator Revere, and Senator Keith Agaran will be in shortly, remotely. Thank you, Senator Misalukcha, and Senator Favela will be joining soon. And he will be on remote as well. Now for 567, we have Everett Dowling, an individual. Everett, are you on? You can proceed, unmute yourself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Senator. And thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of this bill. Many projects have been delayed across the state due to counties imposing conditions that require state agencies and departments to comment on developments that aren't by statute required to review and comment on developments. So the amendment to this bill addresses that issue and would enable a number of projects to get started at a time where the state needs projects, needs the excise tax revenue and the income tax revenue. Most importantly, it needs the housing. So we respectfully request that you consider passing the bill as amended.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. Sandy Wong.
Yes, thank you, Chair Inouye. I would like to, I did submit written testimony. I would echo Mr. Dowling's testimony. You know, this bill will reduce the cost of housing and will in turn accelerate the development of much needed housing in our state. And I think during these dark economic times, it's really needed. I did submit testimony that was submitted last session from people who also submitted similar language that we inserted in another bill. These people still support this language. Unfortunately, Chair, because of the weekend, it was hard to get them to submit written testimony. But I can assure you that they are in support of this measure. Thank you. And I'm here for questions.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you, Everett. We did have testimony from an individual, Charles Prentice, in opposition. Members, are there any questions for the testifiers? Senator Revere.
Thank you, Chair. Either of you, Everett or Sandy, you could, if you could answer this. I'll start with maybe with Sandy, because she offered. What are the conditions that the counties are setting that are not in statute that have become so onerous? Because this bill doesn't say what they are, but it presumes there's a whole bunch of them. So what are these conditions that are often set?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So if the statute is requiring to build a house that the developer gets the okay from DLNR, some of the counties are saying, well, no, besides getting DLNR's approval, we want you to get, DHHL's approval or, another agency's approval. And we find that to be duplicative because in my example, DLNR is the agency that is tasked with that job. And so because the state is in such a hard economic time, it seems silly to have other state agencies duplicate the work that the prime agency should be doing. And so that's why we are pushing this bill.
Is there ever a situation where, in whatever is statutorily required, it triggers an additional question that might, like common sense, require additional review or thought? I mean, is this would forestall any kind of follow-up, it seems to me. So wouldn't there be a concern that you might, by prohibiting anything that's not statutorily required, might you not miss a kind of a common sense follow-up inquiry based on the facts of what is revealed?
I don't necessarily think so, because I think if a question arose that the main agency, for my example, DLNR, could reach out to their sister agency and get and work with them without giving up their jurisdiction to the sister agency. So if they have concerns, they can reach out to the sister agency, but they would remain as the main agency. And once they approved it, then that would be good to go.
And thank you, Chair, for allowing me to continue. I'm still not quite clear. When you mentioned DLNR, what exactly are we talking about there? Is there any other example? What's happening when the county asks DLNR for something? What are they specifically seeking that is outside of the statute?
I can provide perhaps another example. The SHPD has the constitutional responsibility to protect archaeological features and burials. And it's we've encountered on several occasions, and it really comes from individuals opposed to development, and it's a way to extend the approval process, delay projects by tacking on additional agencies to review tasks that are by law in the SHPD's court, such as archaeological features.
I'm sorry, such as?
And some of the other agencies they don't really have the staff or the procedures, and there's not a timeline associated with those reviews, and it greatly prolongs projects. There's a project here in Maui that's been delayed about 10 years because of this condition. And we're not involved in that project. We have no ownership interest or development interest in that project. but it's a great example of
So-
how,
I'm sorry, I still don't get, so Historic Preservation will comment, they'll do their review, they'll provide their report or their analysis or whatever. But what are the additional things that are brought to bear that are not, that this bill would solve?
Senator, I apologize, I'm having a hard time understanding you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Sure, proceed, you can continue.
So, I don't know if my microphone's falling apart or not, but how about that? So SHPD, they're gonna have to weigh in on cultural or historic preservation matters. Okay, that would be either required or not required. Are you saying that sometimes they're brought in when it's not statutorily required?
SHPD always has that responsibility, but there have been several instances where the council has decided, okay, will this require other agencies who really they don't have the staff or they don't have the procedures.
It's the planning department? Pardon me, it's the planning department or the city council is saying, why don't you go back and look at some more stuff?
County council and planning department, actually.
And an example, and I'm still looking for a specific example, besides historic preservation, then who else would be brought in for all of this additional work that's going to slow down the process?
OHA, for instance.
OHA would have participated presumably in the historic preservation comment period?
I think, Senator, Mr. Dowling is just saying as an example and not specifically only with SHPD.
Yeah.
And let me add, I'm trying to remember on the Big Island, I remember one of the county councils, and I'm thinking either it was Mayor Kinoy's regime or Mayor Yamashiro. There was one at a time when additional amendments they had made, which and they created it, and they passed it by ordinance, and the mayor did veto it, because it extended its jurisdiction, and if it's, the developer or any development is bound by additional, and I kind of think, what's the term, Gil, when you add a lot of extended, I guess, extended regulations on a measure, I think, and this is what this, the counties would do, because they feel like they'll do another regulation, and subject to not, that's required already by a state statute. And so it's the cumbersome of any kinds of development, whether it's housing or commercial or whatever, but on something that going forward with where we are today with COVID and the opportunity for more housing on any of the island, when you have more restrictions put on, that's pretty much, in a sense, overburdening and taking over whatever is already regulated by state statute.
So it would prevent the counties from adding additional
Exactly,
requirements.
exactly.
All right, thank you, Chair. Thank you,
Okay.
Sandy.
Thank you. Any other questions of SB 567? Thank you, Sandy and Mr. Dowling, for your participation today. We'll proceed then with SB 570, and this is relating to historic preservation. This amends the definition of historic property under the historic preservation law. DLNR, I believe, Ellen Downer, are you testifying for DLNR on SB 570?
Madam Chair, I am. My name is Alan Downer. I'm the administrator of the State Historic Preservation Division. The department stands on its testimony in support of this bill.
Thank you, Kamakana Ferreira, testifying for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Hello.
Or representative of OHA.
Aloha Chair Inoue and members of the committee. I'm providing administrative testimony today for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. My name is Kamakana Ferreira. I'm the lead compliance specialist with OHA. We stand by our written testimony, but would like to highlight that we've included some suggested language that we believe would lessen possible exclusion of Native Hawaiian cultural sites from the HRS 6E process, since Hawaii Registry eligibility does not have a specific category for sites of importance to Native Hawaiians, whereas the existing 6E review process does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have testifying for HHFDC, Denise Matsubara, in support, Historic Hawaii Foundation, Kirsten Faulkner, in support. We do have a late testimony from Carol Marie Lee, an individual, with some comments. Members, any questions of DLNR? Seeing none, hearing none, then we'll proceed with SB 1166 relating to rentals for public land leases. Authorizes BLNR to approve rental reductions or waivers for leases on public lands that require substantial demolition or infrastructure improvement costs in order for the lessee to utilize the premises. Testifying for DLNR, Ian Hirokawa, or are you there, Ian?
Yeah.
Looks
Chair.
like you there.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Ian Hirokawa with DLNR Land Division. The department will stand on its written testimony in strong support of the measure and will be available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, and members, this is an admin bill. Matter of fact, Ian, are you there?
Yeah.
I have a
Yes.
question, or, you know, with this measure, as we look at, as an example, I'm sure there's other areas within our state, but in particular, when we've been working with what we're going to be doing with Banyan Drive in Hilo, this would assist them as well, I would believe, because there are other, there's some buildings there that's very dated, and I see Russell there as well too. So I think this, I like this measure because it also allows you to use your rental waivers as well and apply it to the improvements that a developer or a lessee would be able to, unable to do the complete destruction of a building or whatever. Is that true? Would this help?
Yeah, we believe so. In fact, Banyan Drive, the situation was one of the key reasons for, coming up with this bill. And we do believe, yes, it will help our other projects we have, with the infrastructure. But yes, we do believe it will help with the Banyan Drive situation.
Refresh my memory, and maybe it's not true. Cocoa Palms on Kauai, is that on leased land or fee simple?
I think they have a small area under the state, but it's not really developed there. I believe it's just an open space. Majority of that land, or where the hotel is, I believe, is all private property.
Oh, okay, so the state portion is, I think, in the backside of the frontage, yeah, because I think the frontage is pretty much developed where the resort used to be. Okay, I was just wondering, just asking if it was public lands. Okay, members, any questions of DLNR? Thank you guys for being available.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, members, and for those in Zoom land, I did mention that SB 1000 and SB 1167 will follow and be at the end of the agenda. We'll proceed with SB 1169, and this is relating to disposition of water licenses by the BLNR. It clarifies the conditions and manner in which the Board of Land and Natural Resources may dispose water by license. This is
Yes, Ian
deferment.
Powell for.
Okay, I think, I'm sorry.
I wasn't sure.
Okay, you're ahead of me.
No,
Okay,
fine.
Ian, testifying for DLNR.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Ian Hirokawa with DLNR Land Division. We'll stand on our testimony in support of the measure and be available for any questions. And also note that we're recommending the committee consider an amendment to the measure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for the committee, again, reminder, this is an admin bill. Hawaii Farm Bureau, is Brian Miyamoto there? Brian, or anyone representing the Farm Bureau? Otherwise, we'll go to,
Hi, Chair. Brian is not on the call today.
okay, thank you. We'll proceed then with Dave Nagata testifying for HECO.
Good afternoon, Chair Inouye, Vice Chair Keith Agaran, and committee members.
Good
Hawaiian
afternoon.
Hawaiian Electric Company stands on its written testimony in support of Senate Bill 1169. We're standing by to answer any questions that the committee may have at this time. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Dave, I'm going to give you some work. Can you tell us how this affects you or something that we should be aware of?
Okay. Act 126 back in 2016 gave existing state water rights committees 3 years to convert their revocable permits to long-term leases. And so Hawaiian Electric Company has been working with DLNR diligently since that time to get the long-term lease in place. As Ian will be able to tell you that we've been working with him diligently on this. However, there are some issues that remain unresolved, such as the extent of the watershed management plan that's required, as well as evaluation of the non-consumptive use that our Wailuku River hydroelectric plants utilize. And so this bill will go a long way in helping us and DLNR to get the long-term lease in place.
Okay, that's in Hilo on the Big Island.
That is correct, on the Wailuku
And that
River.
plant is a long-time savior, I guess, to Helco. And
Yes.
it's surprising that it has kept up, and the location is just perfect for the utility company as well, I believe. And I
Correct.
think you guys need a lot of work too. And you've been working on that for some time, I understand.
Yes, that is correct. We've been working at least several past years on this. Keep in mind that these hydroelectric plants are critical to ECO's goal to reach 100% renewable, as well as contributing to the renewable energy resources that we have available.
Okay, thank you. David, okay, I think Dave was the last of the testifier. We did receive testimony from KIUC, who's the Kauai Island Utility Co-op, David Bissell in opposition. We have the Sierra Club, Jody Malinowski with comments, as well as the Waioli Valley Taro Hui sending communications in comments. Is there any questions, members, for, let's see, DLNR or for HECO?
DLNR, thanks.
Okay, Senator Revere for DLNR. Ian, are you still there?
Yes.
Hi, Ian, thank you. Well, I think we can all agree that the Helco power plant, they've been working hard to get this resolved, and it'd be nice to see this thing put to rest and make some decisions and move them forward. How would this bill affect the other outstanding water permits that have been kind of swept up in the controversy over the last few years? Would this be the mechanism to resolve them all, or how does it fit into that discussion?
I guess I would say it would help. It would definitely help resolve it. I mean, I don't think there's necessarily a magic solution or a solution that'll be, there's some controversial projects that we know that are going to have to, go through the process and be heavily vetted. But I think what we're looking at least is helping out everybody, but with particular focus on, the smaller, the smaller water users, especially the agricultural users also on the Big Island, the ability to not have to go to public auction, I think would help. They've raised that issue before in talking with them, and, we think that the ability to directly negotiate a lease will help quite a bit. The amendment we're proposing regarding the appraisal language as well, I think would, assist quite a bit in helping to determine the value, not just for, the non-consumptive would help, though, which we've been working on, but more so the consumptive use of water. And, so that we're hoping that, those would be the two key ones. Also, third one would be to help narrow and focus the watershed management plan purposes, so that, in order to negotiate, okay, what is the obligations of the lessee with respect to that requirement. I think that would help. That would be another helpful change.
Okay, that's great, thank you. And then I had just a follow-up question on it. Sierra Club had suggested that there maybe should be some concern about maybe limiting the amount of water in the consumptive situation where, you maybe limit the amount that can be drawn or whatever. Is that needed in this bill, or is that still something you guys or the Water Commission still got a careful eye on, right, as in-stream flow standards and such? Should that be considered at this time, those issues?
Yes, sir. I don't know if that needs to be put in this bill. I mean, especially with respect to surface water, the lease will always be subject to the interim in-stream flow standards, and we've been requiring that those get resolved prior to a lease being issued. So, that has the effect of law. So we can't override that. The lease can't override that.
Okay.
Secondly, the board of Land and Natural Land Natural Resources also has the discretion, regardless of the IFS, to say, okay, well, they can always mandate an amount less if they don't believe that, or if they, they believe that that's what's needed for reasonable and beneficial use. So I'm not sure if that has to be put in the statute. We've already got quite a few public oversights by both CWRM and the board on that matter. And even with groundwater, we understand what is a sustainable yield. So even that would set a threshold for how much can be used there.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure we weren't overriding the issues that he just mentioned. So it sounds like we're not. So
exactly.
Mahalo.
And it's kind of difficult, I would think, if you look at the Puero hydro plant in Hilo. It comes down the stream in the gulches that ends up in the ocean. And so we do have drought measures as well, and sometimes they can't use any of it. So I think their pumping ends when there's droughts as well. So Ian, it's kind of interesting. I think this bill I never thought there would be an opposition to this measure on hydroelectric plants. I was wondering why KIUC would be in opposition. Didn't they also build a new hydro plant there?
Yeah, I think my understanding is that the proposed 30-year lease term limit in the bill may be an issue for them with one of their proposed hydro projects on West Hawaii.
They probably would want a higher amount.
I think so. I think they would, my understanding, they would want the 65-year lease.
Okay.
We came up with the 30 years because we felt that given the the sort of unpredictability of the climate change forecasts after 2050, that's kind of, our thinking was maybe not have leases go beyond that, and at that point, the board and the C1 has a clean slate to
I think
review
the
all
30 years, I think, is a
Yeah, and,
good
and it
good
was
start
kind of-
anyway. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ian.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none?
Mayor?
Yes, Senator
Yeah.
Misalucha? Question
Actually, just
four?
a clarification, along the lines of what you were asking Ian about KIUC, because they have a proposed amendment, and actually, can you pull it up, Ian? Would you be amenable to that? Because at the very last paragraph, they're actually looking at a different way of granting the licenses.
I think, they're basically striking the 30-year limit. I think that's what their amendment is. I guess what I would say is, we stand by our proposal, but at the same time, the bill is meant to address a lot of situations other than just the 30 years. So, if the committee or the legislature, deem this to be a good change, I think at this point, we would want something passed that'll, address other issues as well. So I don't want to say, well, that we can't live without it. I think that's a little bit too harsh of a position.
Okay, thank you. You're okay with the answer, Senator?
Yes,
Okay.
fine.
Thank you. Let's move on to SB 999, and this is, one second, I lost my page here. 999 relating to forestry, and this authorizes the GO bonds for the Forest Stewardship Program of the Department of DLNR to increase plant stocks, invest in public outreach, and renovate the equipment and facilities for the state tree nurseries. University of Hawaii, and it could be CTAR.
Yes, good afternoon.
Who's testifying? Nicholas, Jeff Goodwin, or Walter Bowen?
Okay, excuse me for speaking too soon. My name is Walter Bowen, and I'm the Associate Dean for Research. And for the Dean, Nicholas Comerford, we at CTAR stand by on our testimony, written testimony in support, and we're available to answer any questions at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have DLNR. You pick who you want to speak on behalf of DLNR. Is it going to be Chair Case, Bob Masuda, Dave Smith, or Irene Spector?
Hi, David Smith. I'm the administrator with the Division of Forest and Wildlife.
Aloha, David.
Aloha. So we submitted written testimony in support, and we want to stand by that. I wanted to just point out a couple of things for specificity. Because it's GO bonds specified for funding this measure, we just wanted to note that we can't use GO bonds for, if you look at section 2 on page 4, number 1 and 3, we can't use the bonds to expand and increase existing plant stocks, and we can't use the bonds for public outreach and education. So we would recommend striking those sections, but maintain section 2, which is renovate and update equipment and facilities. And by doing that, we're going to accomplish those other purposes and intents for 1 and 3. It just would be better not to have it explicitly in the bill, since those particular appropriations would not be, eligible for GO bonds. And over on page 3, down near the bottom, last paragraph, it says increase existing plant stocks, invest in public outreach. I would strike that as well. It would just be our recommendation. Other than that, it's a great bill and we support it. Thank you very much.
Dave, can you, it's not in your testimony, so can you work with my staff and give us your recommendations?
Sure, will do.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak on this measure? Otherwise, we do have support from Climate Protectors Coalition in support. Testifying for the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party in support, Charles Ice. Okay, questions, members, on this measure? Okay, we will then proceed with 1175. And this is relating to the Interstate Wildlife Violator Compact. Authorizes DLNR to enter into the Interstate Wildlife Violator Compact or similar agreement for mutual assistance in the enforcement of wildlife laws. DLNR. Jason or Ian?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Jason Redula, DoCare Chief for the department. We'll stand on our written testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Okay, members, this is another administration bill as well. Let's see. Inga Gibson testifying for the Fishes Pono Advocacy. Aloha.
Aloha, Chair Inoue, Vice Chair Kithagaran, and members of the committee. Inga Gibson for the Fishes. Strong support. We have been working with DoCare and DLNR on this measure for, I think, at least 6 years. Non-controversial, but unfortunately it seems to get hung up, lost in the shuffle, as they say. I believe Hawaii is one of only 2 states now that is not a member of the compact. It's really important that we join our counterparts in other states so that we can have access to resources and information. So hoping this is the year that the measure is adopted. Mahalo.
It's an interesting bill, and you know, DOT already do that, a compact with the other states with regards to their arrangements in all they do, driver's license and whatever I guess police department wants to use it as well. So I think this, as you did say, it's long overdue. Okay, thank you. We do have the Hawaiian Humane Society sends communication in support. Any questions, members, or comments with regards to SB 1175? We'll proceed then with SB 1179, and this is relating to funding for the Division of Conservation and Resources Enforcement, or DoCare, as we know them. Allocates a portion of the conveyance tax to the Division of Conservation and Resources Enforcement of DLNR to partially cover operational costs related to upholding the laws that serve to protect, conserve, and manage Hawaii's unique and limited natural, cultural, and historic resources. Jason, are you going to testify for DLNR on this one?
Yes, Chair. Good afternoon again. Jason Redula, DoCare Chief for the department. We'll stand on our written testimony in strong support of this measure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And members, this is an admin measure as well. Testifying, Inga Gibson, testifying for Fishes and Pono Advocacy.
Mahalo again, Chair, committee members. Strong support. We have always supported additional funding for DoCare. They are one of the, I think they're one of the states that has the lowest amount of funding for their wildlife enforcement agencies. So any amount, any type of funding, I know that there are a number of options. And just if I may give a few examples, as I referenced in my testimony, that there have been cases where we have seen firsthand where DoCare officers just do not have the staff, the resources needed to investigate some very high-profile, high-dollar poaching cases. As you may recall, Chair, there's been about 5 cases in the media just the last year regarding aquarium poaching on the Big Island. One of those cases alone, on one day of poaching, resulted in the market street value of fish exceeding $37,000 in one day. Unfortunately, we had been reporting a number of these poachers to DoCare for years, but it was really only until NOAA and some other law enforcement agencies became involved to have the resources, we're actually able to hold these these defendants accountable, and they were subsequently charged. So any opportunity, not only for additional funding, but also encouraging DoCare to enter into any MOUs for partnerships with agencies such as NOAA that may have more resources and staff and others available. So strong support for any funding available to DoCare so that they can most efficiently and effectively do their jobs. Mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you for your support as well. It's rather interesting, and during these trying times, that DoCare has done an incredible job with the few people that they have, but it's kind of like overstretching. And when we look upon agencies, if you're going to have too much of your overtime, but this is one agency, they're 24 hours. I mean, they're available all the time and has done a good job, but I'll tell you, when you look at their budget, it's kind of sad. And so this is one measure that possibility could increase so that we can we can include more on the staff as well, and as well as the equipment that they need. James Kuhn, testifying for Trilogy Excursions, sends communication in support, as well as the Ocean Tourism Coalition. Zachary LaPrade sends in communication in support. We have, of course, the Hawai'i Association of Realtors in opposition. Michelle Matson sends communication in support. Chair would also want to add that we're not increasing this measure. All we're doing is shifting the funding mechanism within its own budget by percentage. So just to add that this measure is sorely needed. Any questions? Otherwise, we will proceed then with the deferred items and go back to the agenda for SB 1000, and this is relating to public lands, and this authorizes the designation of areas or regions of public lands classified as commercial, industrial, resort, and hotel, and the establishment and implementation of guidelines for the redevelopment of areas or regions. Let's see. One second, I think I lost my testifying list on 1000. Do you have another copy, staff? Somewhere? Oh, you know what, it's, I reissued. Oh, there we go, thank you. DLNR, Kevin Moore, or representative.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. I'm Kevin Moore with DLNR Land Division. The department will stand on its written testimony in opposition to this measure, except we don't oppose Part 4, which is very similar to the rent credit bill that's also on the agenda, SB 1166.
Okay.
And we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have Department of Taxation, Isaac Choi, or representative.
Good afternoon, Mark Key on behalf of Isaac Choi in the Department of Taxation. The department will stand on its written testimony offering comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Testifying for Kupuna for the Mo'opuna with comments. Anyone? Oh, I'm sorry. It's just a regular testimony with no attendance. In support of the Hawai'i Association of Realtors, and as well as an individual, Mike Miyahira. Questions, members? If not, we'll proceed. And reason I did hold these two at the end, members, we do have SB 1167, and this is relating to the lease extensions on public land. This authorizes the BLNR to extend the leases of public lands for commercial, industrial or resort use upon approval of a proposed development agreement to make substantial improvements to the existing improvements, and it also repeals on June 30th, 2026. Actually, the chair likes this measure as well, and I think I thank DLNR for including this measure. Russ, you going to speak on 1167?
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Russell Tsuji for DLNR Land Division. Like you said, Chair, this is an administrative bill. We stand in strong support of this bill, which would allow for lease extensions across the board. We do have suggest one amendment, and this came after the fact when we had some discussions with some developers who looked at our bill, and we're asking to add mixed use as an allowable use in the bill, which would, we see a lot of that now going on in Kaka'ako and probably more in the newer developments. And we have a definition of mixed use as simply development that combines two or more of the following uses in a single project, which is commercial use, resort use, or multifamily residential use. And I'm available for questions if the committee has any.
Okay. Russ, similarly to what we did in a measure last week, we added one of the, on one of the other bills previously heard with your recommendations to add the category of mixed use.
Yes.
Okay.
It was a different version of the.
Right. OHA? Sterling Wong?
Good afternoon. This is Wayne Tanaka, standing in for Sterling Wong. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustees Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment Committee has taken the position of oppose on this measure. You have a written testimony. I do want to emphasize, again, that what happens to the ceded lands is of utmost concern to Native Hawaiians. This is not being hyperbolic at all, but these were lands that were literally taken at gunpoint from the Hawaiian people and the government that they had established. That fact has not been addressed. The claims still have not been resolved and, in fact, largely ignored. But what happens to our public lands are also something, it's also a matter of concern to the general public as well. And so our position is that Native Hawaiian and public interests should be protected, especially by potential sweetheart deals that can place ceded and public lands in private hands for over 100 years. That being said, we do have some specific amendments in our testimony that would allow for extensions, but in a more reasonable manner with protections including public notice for any lease extension proposal. A lot of that language is based on the law, on existing law. In fact, the act that this bill is based on, Act 149. We've also been talking with the proponents of this measure who have been open to things like shortening extensions to 20 years. In fact, I don't think no one so far seems to think they actually need 40-year extensions to get the kind of financing that they want. So, I just urge you to consider these amendments that we put forward to kind of mitigate our concerns. Thank you.
I have a question I'd like to add, or more comments. In most of your testimonies on any proposal or any bills, when you look at lands already leased out and you are enjoying the proceeds as well from those, including anywhere, including, I think, public lands, whether it's DHHL lands. But when you shorten or you discontinue utilizing the land, if there's too many restrictions, if a company or a commercial project goes kaput, we're not going to be seeing any of the revenues going forward. So I'm not sure where OHA is always at that attitude. So unless you want to share that with us, because when you lose revenue, no one's gaining.
Right, that's a great comment, great point you're making. Just to clarify, we don't get revenues from all public lands. There's a public land trust that's established under the Admission Act and Constitution, and that's a subset of the ceded lands. Native Hawaiian claims the ceded lands trace back to the overthrow of the kingdom, and that's a much larger corpus of lands, and the concerns about encumbering them are related but separate from the revenue generating, the pro rata share of public land trust revenues. That's
All right.
I think you're referring to.
Thank you. We do have an individual, Jun Shin, in opposition, the Hawaii Cattlemen's Council in support, and the Ocean Tourism Coalition in support as well. Members, any questions on SB 1167? Okay, seeing none. I'm sorry, Senator Favela, please. Your question to who?
Well, the only concern I have, and I brought this up before, we're going with the public land, and previous speaker talked about the overthrow, and I just have very much concern when we're talking about ceded land, because this is something that is sensitive to the topic. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, that going forward, finding creative ways of breaking apart and selling, leasing, giveaway, or trading ceded land. I have a problem with that. Just that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Chair, I think I see Daniel Kale there from Brookfield Properties
Chair.
Retail. Sorry, Daniel.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair Agron, and committee members. Brookfield, although we support the intent of the bill, we actually oppose the bill because for the previous bill that Chair was talking about, Senate Bill 257, provides a more practical application and investment strategy for proposed ground lease extensions, particularly in the midst of the worst pandemic in over 100 years. So we ask you to hold the bill because we don't support although like I said, we support the intent, we don't support the practical application in the bill.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, members? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, the chairs, let's see, I think we'll go into recess now for decision making. Okay. Thank you. The Committee on Water Land is going into decision-making on its notice of hearing on Monday, February 8th. Members will proceed then with the decision-making portion. Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 567. See, this one here has technical amendments as well, non-substantive amendments with an SD1. I think I'm correct, right? Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha.
Reservations.
Senator Riviere.
Reservations.
Senator Favela.
No.
Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay. Thank you. SB 570 relating to historic preservation. Chair's recommendation is to pass this measure as is. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair Inouye.
Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Riviere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Reservation.
Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. SB 1166 relating to rentals for public land leases. Chair's recommendation is to move this measure with an SD1. Also, it may include technical, non-substantive amendments. Okay, any discussions? Hearing and seeing none, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Reservations.
The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, for the next two measures, SB 1000 and SB 1167 will be deferred to Wednesday, February, is that the 9th? 10th. February 10th at 1 p.m. in room 229. Okay. SB 1169, and this is relating to the disposition of the water licenses. Chair's recommendation is to pass with an SD1 that may include technical or non-substantive amendments. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha.
Reservations.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
No.
The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. SB 999 relating to forestry. Chair's recommendation is to pass this measure with an SD1. There is a typo on page 3 with regards to the word nursery, but I guess that would be a non-substantive amendments, I would think so. And so for the purposes of clarity and consistency, Chair also would like to add the DLNR's recommendation for the amendments. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. SB 1175 relating to the Interstate Wildlife Violator Compact. Chair's recommendation is to pass with an SD1 that this measure may have some technical and non-substantive amendments. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
The recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you. The last item on the agenda, SB 1179, and this is relating to funding for daycare. Chair's recommendation is that we'll pass this measure with an SD1 as well. And this may include technical, non-substantive amendments to the purpose section. This measure will be moving to the WAM committee as well. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Aye.
Recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, folks, and we will see you on Wednesday. We had nothing scheduled for that day. Now we do, and so we'll be seeing you with these two measures for the Wednesday schedule. Thank you so much, members, and to those in the public. The Committee on Water and Land is saying sayonara.